Green rush is the term that people use a lot here, especially when it comes to licensing, because there is a little bit of like a prospecting kind of view of how this works, right? Which is that it's really important that you get this license, because without the license you don't operate, you don't know when it's going to come back again, they're limited, they're competitive, so you want to stake that claim, get that license, and then hopefully make something out of it after that. In other states, like similar states with the same numbers or similar numbers of licenses, you tend to see around 100 to 200 different applicants. And those are applicant groups, right? And it depends on how many people are within each individual group, right? But that tends to be the number that you see in larger states that have more licenses available to give. From that group, what you kind of see is that there's like sort of tiers of how well they do. The top third tend to capture almost all of them, really, and then the bottom third just don't. And you see that more and more as time goes on, because there's more multi-state operators, multi-state cannabis companies that have been successful in the past are able to repeat that moving forward, and they get better and better and have more and more resources, and they're more and more funded. So you see this kind of concentration of these repeat players over and over again, and I think you'll see that here as well too. One thing that is good about Illinois, though, is that it has a very aggressive social equity program. So hopefully you'll see some groups that haven't showed up in the past in other states, some local homegrown companies that are able to get an extra boost because of that and get established here. The biggest problem that I see often is not so much whether there is a legal block, or I should say in Illinois, that the problem isn't necessarily whether there's people who are legally prevented from applying, it's whether those individuals have access to capital. That's the biggest problem that a lot of groups, especially individuals who have criminal convictions in the past, face, which is that it's just hard to get money, it's hard to get startup capital from funders. And I don't know, how that gets addressed. We're in a world where companies that have already won in other states are able to get cash because they've won in other states, and they want to go to a new place, and it's assumed that investors assume that they will win again, right? So why would you give money to people who haven't won if these other guys have won 10 licenses? Let's give them the money, right? And that's something that still has yet to be addressed. I don't know if it can be addressed in law, but I think that'll be the hardest thing for a lot of these groups that haven't won in the past. So my 30-second piece of advice, first and foremost, is to do your homework. Be really, really conversant and really, really knowledgeable with the law, regulation, and the application. That's going to be the gate. That's how you get in. And if you don't know that, you don't get in. So everything else that comes after that, I'm not saying hold off on it, but if you don't know this, you don't get to that, right? If you don't know the law, you don't know the licensing, then you don't get to do any of the fun stuff, right? So you've got to be on all fours with how you get your license first. And in that process, you should be able to learn how all of this works, according to the best practices of the industry as well.